You know the feeling. You've got this brilliant idea, a truly rock-solid strategy. I mean, it looks absolutely perfect on paper. But then, somewhere between that perfect plan and the actual finish line, everything just kind of gets lost. So today, we're going to dive into how to really master the art of execution and turn those awesome plans into real-world results. Seriously, think about it for a second. That one project that kicked off with so much energy but just fizzled out, or that big strategy that everyone nodded and agreed to, but then nobody actually seemed to follow through. It's got to be one of the most frustrating things in any company, big or small. You know you have the right idea, but for some reason, you just can't seem to make it happen.
Well, this whole problem actually has a name. It's called the execution gap. It's that messy, treacherous space between your vision and what you actually get done. But here's the good news. You can absolutely build a bridge across that gap. And in this explainer, we're going to lay out the blueprint for that bridge. It's all built on 3 really essential pillars.
All right, let's jump right in with our very first pillar, governance. Now, I know that word might sound a little corporate, maybe a bit stuffy, but stick with me here. This is all about setting a clear, predictable rhythm for your team to march to.
So, what is governance really? Well, it's not about bureaucracy or piling on more meetings, that's for sure. The best way to think about it is like the operating system for your project. It's the code running in the background that makes sure everyone knows who's doing what, how decisions actually get made, and how the work is supposed to move forward.
And the real magic word here is cadence. It's less about having a bunch of rigid rules and way more about creating a reliable pulse for the project. You know, when people know exactly when they're going to get information and when key decisions will be made, it just removes a huge amount of uncertainty and stress. It frees them up to, well, to just do their best work. And here's a super simple but powerful example of a cadence. You've got the daily stand-up, which is quick, it's focused, it's all about, okay, what are we doing today? Then you have the weekly tactical review, which asks, are we actually on track to hit our short-term goals? And finally, that monthly strategic sync zooms way out and asks the big question, is all this work we're doing still aligned with the bigger picture? See, each meeting has its own clear purpose, and together they create this rhythm that keeps the whole team in sync.
Now let's move on to our second pillar. And honestly, if you only take away one single idea from this whole thing, please let it be this one. Because while governance gives you the structure, communication is what actually makes the whole thing go. It is the driving force.
Just let that sink in for a minute. Communication drives execution. This is probably the single biggest insight from all the research. It's not some nice-to-have or a soft skill you work on later. No way. It is the engine. Plain and simple. Without clear, consistent, intentional communication, even the absolute best governance structure is going to fail.
So how do you actually fuel that engine? Well, not by just hoping people will talk to each other, that's for sure. You've got to be intentional. That means having a real formal plan. Where do people go for the official project status? What's the right channel for urgent news? And this is critical. You have to build pathways so that information doesn't just flow down from leadership, but also up from the front lines and across different teams. Oh, and here's a great tip. Make it a rule that bad news has to travel faster than good news. It might sound scary, but it builds incredible trust and lets you solve problems before they totally blow up.
Okay, and to make sure all of that communication is actually based on reality and not just a bunch of opinions, we need our third and final pillar, dashboards. These are the tools that you use to track your progress and measure how you're doing.
And here's why this is so important. Without a shared view of the data, everyone starts operating with their own version of the truth. You might have one person who thinks things are going great, while someone else is convinced it's a total disaster. A good dashboard just cuts right through all that noise. It creates one single source of truth that gets the entire team aligned around the same set of facts.
I mean, you can see the power of it right here. Just look at this simple chart. In what, 3 seconds? Where does your eye go? Straight to the budget, right? You immediately know, okay, timeline and quality are fine, but the budget needs some attention. That is the power of a good dashboard. It gives you instant clarity that drives really focused, productive conversations.
Okay, so we have our 3 pillars: governance, communication, and dashboards. But you know, a system is only ever as good as the people who are running it. And that brings us to the one thing that ties it all together: leadership, especially when things get tough.
Because let's be real for a second, things will go wrong. The timeline is going to slip, the budget will get squeezed, a key person might get sick. A great execution system isn't about trying to prevent every single problem from happening. It's about being able to handle them effectively when they do. That is the real test.
And during those tests, there are 2 leadership challenges that always seem to pop up. First,
It's knowing when and how to escalate a problem. And second, it's figuring out how to hold people accountable, especially when you're not actually their direct boss.
Let's start by totally reframing what escalation means. So many people see it as like admitting you failed or tattling on a coworker, but that's just the wrong way to think about it. Smart escalation is a strategic tool. It's about recognizing, hey, this problem is bigger than my scope, and then quickly getting it to the people who have the power and the context to solve it. It's not about blame, it's about speeding up the solution.
Now let's talk about accountability. The old way was pretty simple, right? You just used your job title to tell people what to do. But in today's collaborative teams, that just doesn't fly anymore. The modern way is all about influence. It's about creating so much clarity and shared purpose that your team members feel a real sense of ownership. They want to be accountable for their outcomes. It's about making accountability a team sport, not some top-down command.
And as we bring all this together, you can see how we come right back to our central theme. I mean, how do you build that kind of influence? Through clear communication. How do you make smart escalation decisions? By communicating problems early and accurately. It all comes back to this one idea. Communication is the fuel that makes your governance, your dashboards, and your leadership actually work.
So if there's one crucial point to leave you with, it's this. Stop chasing the perfect plan. It just doesn't exist. Instead, focus your energy on building a really robust system, a reliable bridge with strong governance, clear communication, and honest dashboards. That's the thing that will let you and your team navigate the messy, imperfect, and unpredictable reality of any ambitious project.
And that leaves us with one last question for you to take back with you. As you think about your own projects and your own teams, which part of your execution engine is running a little low on fuel? Do you need a more consistent rhythm, a better communication plan, or maybe just a clearer, more honest view of your progress? Figuring out where to add that fuel, well, that's the first real step to mastering the art of execution.